Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a 9-game slate to kick off this Monday night for you guys in the NBA this week. Go ahead and make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We're bringing you a couple game videos and our player props each and every weekday this regular season. This one, we're taking a look at the piping hot Orlando Magic taking on the struggling Hawks in Atlanta. Also, like I said, I have a couple other up for you today as well. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we have our great content for you, written by Nate and the gang all season long for you guys, and our player props, our odds finder tool. You can use that to go ahead and get the best juice available, NBA player props, NBA games, and the like. So go ahead and make sure you're using that as well to get the best money back on those bets. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into the 9-game slate we've got tonight and then talk Magic and Hawks.
Yeah, we got some revenge narratives here. Utah at Cleveland. The Cavs are 6-point favorites at home with a 221 total. The Raptors, still questionable whether they'll have OG back at some point this week. Gary Trent day-to-day. They're plus 7.5 at Philly, so we'll see what the injury news brings there. This game, the Magic are down to plus 6.5. It was 7.5, and that total's at 230. Get back to it in a second. We got Spurs plus 4 at the Rockets, Blazers minus 7 at the Thunder, Mavs are minus 3.5 at Timberwolves. So there's a chance Luka Doncic sits in that one. Bucks are minus 1 at Pelicans. That is the other game we will break down there. Lakers on a back-to-back are plus 9.5 at the Suns, who got Devin Booker back, and he dropped a nice 50-piece to snap their woes. And then the Hornets are plus 10 at the Kangs back home with a 240 total in that game. Definitely interesting to eye some player props out there. We're looking at the Hawks, and just a flailing Hawks team, if you will, since that issue arose between Trae Young and head coach Nate McMillan. They're 2-5, including a loss at Orlando where they gave up 50 in the first quarter to Orlando. It's really hard to take an under with this team right now, given the fact that they will just hemorrhage points at times. So maybe we are more intrigued at the over. I mean, at first glance, I'm like, why is Orlando such a big dog? How much value can I get on Orlando just winning this game? And then what do I want to parlay with to potentially double that value? Is it the Orlando money line and the over plus 450 or the under plus 500? I think I lean slightly towards the over because we're saying, why is Atlanta continuing to lose games? Because their defense is awful per usual, but it's particularly awful without John Collins and with DeAndre Hunter either out or banged up. Same thing really applies to Clint Capella and DeJounte Murray out. I mean, there's just kind of a bunch of rookies, and then Trae Young regarded sometimes as the worst defender in the NBA individually. And Orlando is a big switchable team. That in the first meeting of the season, they were playing, too big, not using enough of their versatility. Wendell Carter Jr. still playing. He's a good player, but I don't know if he's as dangerous to this Hawks defense. So they had no Mo Wagner in the lineup, no Bol Bol, no Markelle Fultz, who came back from injury, and they only scored 98 against Atlanta. And then the last two meetings, I mentioned that second one. The first one was a Hawks win. It was 70-50 at halftime, though. So the Magic were doing their part offensively. They just weren't having that much success denying Trae and DeJounte Murray with both of them out there. But you mentioned it, the piping hot Magic coming off consecutive wins in Boston, some of the most unexpected results you'd see, because they came in on a 4-game win streak, and they were still 13-point dogs in Boston and sort of drank that Kool-Aid, bulletin board material, whatever you want to say, came out and just put the clamps on the hottest offense in the league, a team that has looked unbeatable at home in 2 games against Boston, held them to 100 points, to 24% three-point shooting, and a 39-30 assist-to-turnover ratio. And the Hawks, they got a win over the Hornets. They shot 51% from 3. That's an anomaly from what we've seen from this team. They've been just awful from beyond the arc. The previous 8, they're shooting 32%. And Orlando's the number 2 three-point defense on the road. They deny the mid-range, do a good job on points in the paint, obviously with all that length. And the Hawks are scoring the highest percentage of their points inside the arc of any team in the league. So I just trust Orlando the way they're rolling right now to be able to keep this reasonably close, whether that means scoring with Atlanta because they have 7 power forwards and Atlanta has nobody to guard power forwards right now. So whether that's scoring with them or just continuing to capitalize on Atlanta's chemistry issues and offensive issues, that it doesn't really allow them to pull away from many teams.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting to me about the way Orlando's winning is that they aren't really doing anything differently in terms of their style of play. There's there's something to the fact that Markelle Fultz has been back. And they're 18-18 basically with him for the last 3 seasons when he's playing in the 36 games he's played for them in the last 3 seasons. Obviously not ideal numbers there. 18-18, 500 team. Without him, they are 36-113. I do with that what you will, but I mean, they have a point guard on the court when he's out there, and they don't have anything like a capable point guard when he's not. So the difference in why they're winning is strictly, I think, just game management, and definitely, a defense that has been up to scratch, let's say. They've won a few games with points. They are all against the Hawks. So it is a game where, in their wins, Orlando is scoring 113, versus when they're losing, they're only scoring about 106, but not that big of a difference. There's much larger disparities. So it's really just a matter of, are they sort of taking advantage of their possessions? Obviously, their offensive rating and their efficiency, that's what goes up in their wins, much more so than anything else. And once again, that's a direct result, efficient offense, of actually having a point guard on the court there. Bol also gets some flowers, and then Mo Wagner, not Franz, Mo Wagner gets some flowers as well in those last 8 games or so that they've been playing without Wendell Carter Jr., who was wildly important to their team, it seems, before Mo Wagner decided that he was also going to come in and play with like 108 defensive rating individually, which is plenty for him. That's very, very good for him because of what he's also bringing on offense in his 28 minutes a game during that time frame. And that's going to be a problem, once again, for a team that doesn't have Clint Capella, and Trae Young's efficiencies clearly are a little bit hampered by that. He also doesn't have John Collins, another rim runner, that he needs in that pick and roll style offense. So that's a bit of the reason for the struggles to me, is just a little bit of who's playing, who's not playing. DeJounte, obviously, we still don't think he's playing. So I think that, without DeJounte, which it's not like they were like super efficient with him, they were still figuring things out, but at least they had another ball handler on the floor and someone who can get his own shot and create for others when Trae does need a break, because Trae's on off. As sort of average as he's been at times for himself, it's still like there's no one scoring when he's not on the floor. Thankfully for them, Bogey's back, which is another reason that, I'm a little bit scared of an under. My first thought is exactly yours. Like, this is at 7.5 at this point, 6.5, depending on where you find it for Orlando. Just go ahead and smash that if you like. I'll go ahead and take a little bit of that money line magic as well for the Magic, and see if I can't get, that plus 220 or so in certain places for them. And then, I want to go under on a total where in the last 20 games that the Magic have played, this total they've gone over 4 times of 230.5. Obviously, one of those was the Hawks. And it's not like I feel as comfortable just using that math to get there, because of the fact that I do think that if they win this game, they're probably putting up close to 115, 117 points to be able to, because the Hawks, that's all they're going to be able to do. I think they're going to give up points, and you can feel good about, Orlando taking advantage of that, especially now, with nobody that I would be really concerned about for their offense missing. Everybody's there for them. So on the road, they do struggle way more on offense, but this is the time for them to sort of right that ship, considering how bad the Hawks have been on defense just everywhere, like you said. So versus the East in general, they're 11-11 against the spread. They're covering by like 2.5 points. I think you watch what they're doing against all these top tier teams in the East over the course of the last 2 weeks, beating Toronto twice and beating the Celtics on the road twice, as we said. That also fares well for the way that I think that they feel a little bit more confidence playing these teams that they know and are a little bit more familiar with, since they've still got so many young guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's like a direct correlation, it seems, between when the Hawks lose and when they go under, at least on the broader trend side. It's like they're 5-9 to the over after a win. They're also 5-9 straight up. Same kind of trend with division games, same kind of trend when they're listed as home favorites, and they've not been covering at all consistently as home favorites. The Magic, like you mentioned, their offense is a little bit of a struggle bus on the road. And when they do go over the Magic, it tends to be against Western Conference teams. I mean, they're 7-13 to the over. Against the East here, and going under by an average of 6 points per game on the road. But I mean, these are all just trends, and it's kind of an anomaly when you look at how the Hawks play, which is you don't know what you're going to get in terms of effort, in terms of chemistry on offense or defense. So, I mean, we're circling around the fact that the total is just much less reliable here than trying to back Orlando to cover. And like you said, you might as well sprinkle some on the money line, because it's like it's feast or famine with this Hawks team right now. What you're going to get from them on a nightly basis in Orlando, you might as well see how long you can ride this little hot surge from them. I mean, they got a lot of talent on the roster for sure. And right now they're healthier than Atlanta by far. And they seem to like playing with each other. I mean, don't underestimate the joy of actually playing with each other versus Atlanta, which is just kind of falling apart here, and finger pointing and whatever arose at the beginning of this month between Trey and the head coach. And so, I mean, yeah, +7 is too big, and +220 is a lot of value to get a team that could easily win this game.
Yeah, 100%. And I thought you were going to say, don't underestimate the value of friendship. You could have really nailed that one home. But either way, yeah, it is about liking your teammates as well. I mean, if you look at like you said, just the talent on that roster, if you just look at the starters for tonight, I mean, Bogey will probably be in there, DeAndre Hunter and Trey, and then Okongwu and Jalen Johnson, Aaron Holiday, fine, whatever. But if you're looking at who's starting, if you do believe in this Bull surge of super efficient offense, I mean, his defense still leaves a lot to be desired. But if you're 7 feet tall and bringing the skill set that he's bringing right now and taking advantage of your matchups the way he is, Franz Wagner, Paolo, Bull, Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz, or Mo Wagner and Markelle Fultz, like, I think I'd like those starting lineups just as much as anything. So that +7 is just way too much. It's not like Orlando has done that much worse on the road in any way other than just not playing as well on offense, but still bringing the exact same level of defense. If there is anywhere that Atlanta can take advantage, it's turnovers. If Orlando is going to turn the ball over too much, Atlanta does take advantage of that. Scores, I believe they're in the top 7 or so in the league in terms of scoring off of opponents' turnovers, taking advantage of that, getting out on the fast break. And that's the only time that they really do fast break. Other than that, they're running a much more slower paced offense, which has been a little bit less efficient in the half court. And obviously that defense not being up to scratch is the reason that this +7.5 is way too much. And you can find +230 on that money line. Definitely worth at least a touch there. And then, definitely feel pretty good about that +7 number. So
the Bucks, we're going to talk about this one here, -1 at the Pels, totals at 228. Not really that much movement there. Lakers on a back-to-back are +9.5 at Phoenix, who got Devin Booker back, and he promptly went off. And then the Hornets are +10 at the Kings. I mean, you said the Bucks got wrecked in Memphis, then they come home and destroy the Jazz without Giannis or Chris Middleton. Middleton's going to miss this game as well. Giannis, of course, you would expect to be back, and he should be back. It was just rest, I believe, for him. But the key note there was that, the Bucks getting back to playing well as a team, and Drew Holiday getting back to his full powers, it seems. He'd been in and out of the lineup for a while, dealing with a non-COVID illness, and that seemed to hamper him. And now, he's starting to cook again. Had a really nice line in just 27 minutes in that blowout win, 22-9-5. And now he's facing his former team, of course, and we talk about how he's just as important in some ways as Giannis is for the Bucks' success. And if you look at the Bucks and be like, how can I back this team? They're so inconsistent. Like they crush the Warriors, then they get crushed, then they crush another team. You can look at Drew and say, they're much more used to playing with Drew and Giannis as the centerpieces than Chris Middleton, who has shown a lot of rust since coming back and was not necessarily super helpful. Definitely not on the defensive end as much. But where I lean Bucks a little bit, but I am on the over as a firm pick here at 228, anywhere 230 or lower, in my opinion. I mean, these are two teams that can obviously fill it up. That, like I said when we talked about Milwaukee-Memphis last week, They're two teams that attack the paint and might be able to limit other teams from attacking the paint, but they can't limit each other. Like you look at Zion, the last time he played Milwaukee, 34, 8, and 6, and that was with Brook Lopez healthy and playing 35 minutes. So it's not like that rim protector can stop Zion. Nobody can stop Zion right now. Giannis came right back with 38, 10, and 4. Milwaukee struggling to guard the paint in general, aside from that Jazz game where Utah just didn't show up. I mean, they got pounded by Memphis down low, and they've been giving up fast break points as well. And the pace is just so notable. I mean, I only have to take the last 7 meetings of these teams. They've been playing shootouts for a while now, but the last 7 is a 107 pace, with the Bucks scoring about 126 a game, the Pels scoring 117. You look at the Bucks in their last 3 games, pace of 105 to beat the Warriors, 101 against Memphis, and then they go down to 92 against Utah, but still scored at such an efficient rate without Giannis that they got 123 points. And I mean, with Giannis, their pace is obviously going to ramp back up. Pelicans with Zion, we talk about all the time, their pace is about 100 versus 95 without him. They get 9 more free throw attempts per game. The defensive rating, I don't really buy the fact that it's slightly worse without him. I don't think that he's a defensive plus necessarily. I think he's, right now he's about being point Zion, attacking the rim at all costs and helping the game get up and down in that fashion. And I think that that's great for Giannis and for the Bucks as well. Also, the fact that Larry Nance Jr. is doubtful basically for this one is good for Giannis. He would have been one of the guys to try to slow him down. The Pels, I mean, their defense was really good before they went on this 3-game road trip, and then it just kind of, the bottom fell out. They had 121 defensive rating and gave up 124 points per game, and really struggled inside the arc in that span. And so now even coming back home, I don't expect a lights-out defensive performance, and they're slight underdogs here. They're 8-2 to the over when they're underdogs this year. 17-12 to the over as home dogs last year, and this year as well, going over at a high clip against the East. And the Bucks, an incredible high clip against the West since last year in terms of going over, playing with pace, and scoring about 118, including those matchups with New Orleans I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, great matchup. Really fun stuff for sure. And as we would expect, like Zion versus Giannis, even if that's not the direct battle that we consistently get, although we have seen actually a couple of times where they go at the rim together, which is always the most fun thing ever. I think like for them in terms of points in this one, it's just the only reason this game is still at 227.5 is because of the Bucks defense, which has been the best in the league by far. And also the worst offense on the road by far, and that's the reason. I don't know what you necessarily attribute that to be honest, nearly as much. The 14-point disparity between how many points they're scoring at home versus on the road. If you look even just at the last 4-ish road games, dating back, let's say the last 10 days or so of playing basketball, or 2 weeks really, that they have the worse than the Orlando Magic on the road as well, which is also really bad, and we talk about that in the other game. But that's been getting better. The Bucks on the road lately, yeah, you're just a little bit worried. I like I said, I don't really know what to attribute that beatdown in Memphis to. They just basically gave up by the time the second quarter came around, to be honest. And I mean, Memphis throws its best punch at you. That's what it's known for, bringing it in the first quarter a lot as well. And then just seeing if you can take it. And Milwaukee didn't. They just folded and were like, we're good on the road here. I would venture to guess that there's going to be plenty more pride left in this one. They at least got the win without their key players, like you said, without Giannis and Chris Middleton playing against the Jazz, still pulling out that win. But that's at home. Now we're back on the road, and you're just thinking, all right, so what do we do with this? Back to a roughly 5-game road trip for them. I would hope that that's been talked about, that they have the worst offensive rating on the road over the course of their last 5 in that situation, and that's what is going to be the difference in this one. With like you said, with Drew, you feel a lot better about all of this. You feel a lot better about the points, but this is, you said it, there's been an average of 246 points a game scored at 47 almost in this this matchup over the course of the last, even just like you said, you could go back like 7 meetings. If you look at the last 3 seasons, basically, that's what I'm looking at here is that their last 4 matchups over the course of 3 seasons. And so I could at least get that other Zion season before he was out last year. And yeah, you're looking at 121 points a game for the Pellies and 126 points a game for the Bucks. So, the ones on the road are the 2 where they've scored the fewest amount of points. They scored 112 a couple matchups ago, and then before that they scored 126 on the road against New Orleans. Those are their 2 lowest totals in that time frame against them. And you look at why, like you said, it's points in the paint and it's fast break points. And both of these teams are doing that at a high clip. But like you said, also, New Orleans has really been much worse defending the paint even wherever they are this season than they've been in the past. And I don't really – Zion's doing fine, but it's also the pace. And so the teams are getting a lot of fast break points as New Orleans is just happy to go up and down, up and down, up and down. And if that's going to be the case, then, I think I would venture to guess that like Milwaukee's down to play at that pace. Like you said, that's how they played against this team in the past. I think that they, are happy to continue moving the ball up and down the court as well and shooting plenty of threes as well. But those points in the paint are going to be available because of the fact that, New Orleans in their last 4 at home as well have failed to guard the paint up better than like 20th in the league right now in terms of defending that area of the court. So, there's just a lot of reason for points. I don't know. It seems like -1.5 is a little bit off for this NOLA team. Like, why are they dogs at home? But it's basically a pick 'em at this point. And I think probably we're seeing the money at least shifting towards Milwaukee at this point. I believe it opened right at about this, maybe like it's moved like a half a point for Milwaukee. So it seems pretty even on both sides in terms of where the action's coming in. And it's really just a matter of how you feel like about the fourth quarter and who's going to finish this one. But much better bet to me would this be for this game to get at least 230, 232 in that range tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned the fourth quarter, and that's where Milwaukee usually puts the clamps on, but New Orleans is second in fourth quarter scoring, and Zion, we've seen, you're not going to stop him down the stretch. You also talked about, what happened with that Memphis game. Well, Drew Holiday didn't play again, and in a lot of these road games at Charlotte that went under, at San Antonio, both Giannis and Drew Holiday did not play. Then you got some matchups where you really would expect an under. The Knicks, at Magic, at Dallas. We don't know what to make of that Houston game. But a few of these games you throw in there, Middleton, like I was saying, he's like clogging up the works. He was like 1 for 11 at Orlando. Right. He's just not back yet. And it's kind of awkward to try to integrate him. The Bucks have shown the ability to get into shootouts. 136, 132 at OKC. And their defense is not as reliable as it was early in the season to be like, oh, I'm really scared that they're just going to play a game that stays under 110. I mentioned some of those key notes that the fast break points and points of the paint are what you worry about here. And look, there's struggles on the road scoring. They got to figure this out because, man, this is a brutal road trip that they have coming up here. It's the first of 5 on the road. They're at Cleveland, at Brooklyn, at Boston, and at Chicago. Maybe early season they're kind of looking at their schedule like, yeah, we can let that slide on the road. We come back home, we take care of business. Well, it's time to step up on the road. You can't just lose 5 games in a row here where you're not going to compete against really the cream of the crop coming up in this stretch. So I think They do bring it on both ends, and like we've seen the last couple of years, like Milwaukee scores like 121 in wins. So if you want to parlay them with the over, sure, but I think I just take the over here and count on both teams scoring.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. And like I said, points is where I lean, and exactly what you said was my thinking here. When you look at the 5 games that they have on the road, Pellies, Cavs, Nets, C's, Bulls, whatever. Bulls pretty good at home sometimes, not against the Knicks. But yeah, with those 5 here, you got to imagine that they've already been talked to, and that boot is like pretty up their butts about the way that the offense is being played, getting that pace back up to 100 plus as opposed to the random like 99s, like you said, that they're putting up against teams like Dallas and losing those games. So Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first NBA player prop for tonight.
Yeah, we talked about the Bucks and the Pels, and we're going to talk about that in player props for sure. If we like the over, like some overs with some players, including Drew Holiday, who's finally getting back to health here. He was out with a non-COVID illness for a while, also an ankle issue. But his last 6 when he's been active, 23 points per game, 8 assists, and hitting 3 threes at a 45% clip. So 18.5 points seems really low. You're getting plus odds for him to hit 3 threes as well against the Pels team that gives up the 4th most 3-point attempts and gives up the 2nd most makes to shooting guards this season. And Chris Middleton's out. And so his usage rate since last season goes up from 22% to 28.5% without Middleton, as you would expect. Efficiency is worse, but he's just asked to do more, and the efficiency might suffer a little bit. But this is a former team theory thing, of course. This is his 4th matchup with New Orleans since being traded. In the previous 3, getting 28 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. That includes a 40-point outburst in an overtime game in his first trip back to New Orleans in a game with no Chris Middleton or Giannis. So with both active, though, he still goes for 22, 9, and 5 against New Orleans last March. And, New Orleans 121 defensive rating in their last 3 games. Granted, those were on the road, but they're looking a little bit vulnerable, and we like points to be happening in this game, so Drew should get involved.
Yeah, I'm struggling to understand what the logic is behind his prop being at 18.5 points. Maybe because he was sick for a bit or something. I truly don't know. I mean, I understand Milwaukee's offense and its struggles on the road this season, but we gave you Nate gave you some pretty good explanations in that game video for why that is. And playing against his former team, playing without Chris Middleton, I feel like this should be at 21.5. So I'm pretty happy to go ahead and hit that one. That should be our favorite bet as well. Staying in this game because, like we said, we expect some points in that one. Zion over 25.5 points. You could throw the rebounds in there for 33.5 points in rebounds. So giving him about 8 boards that he would need to get or so, right? But either way, last 5, he's been getting that 31.5 points. We hit him twice in that time frame because he was playing the Jazz, who are the worst rebounding team. Look ahead to another prop today and someone playing the Jazz. But last 5 overall, like I said, the beneficiary of 2 games against the worst rebounding team in the league. 31.5 a game, 8 boards, more than 8 boards a game on 30% usage during that time. He's a plus 77 on the floor. Obviously, we know actually the reason they lost one of those games is because he was not on the floor because he fouled out against the Jazz pretty early. Well, he got 3 fouls pretty early and had to sit a lot. But 10.5 free throw attempts because he's running that point guard, attacking from the top and getting all the way down to the rim and barreling into people and getting those free throws. So if he's getting 10.5 free throws, I really, really like the points. You can throw the boards on there. It's a little bit scarier because Brolo's playing, but he's played against this Milwaukee team with Brolo in there over the last time that they played. He still went for 34, 8, and the 6 assists. I love the assists as well, just because he's been getting at least 4 or 5 of those with Brandon Ingram off the floor. So Milwaukee on the road in their last, or at least in their last 3, 51 points in the paint that they're allowing, which is obviously bottom 5 in the league if it was over the course of the season. And they're allowing about 15 fast break points on the road as well, which is where we know New Orleans wants to get up and down, especially at home, scoring about 3 more fast break points on the road, are they? So feel good about points in this one. Feel good about Zion being obviously a huge reason for that. So getting 26 points feels like a really solid bet for tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the 4th time in the last 5 opportunities you've taken Zion to get 26 points, and it's hit every single time. And you probably would have taken it more if he wasn't playing on the weekend, and it would have hit it again because he had 35 against the Suns. It's just extremely reliable, and his prop has been around 26.5 until today. And again, I think they're just overvaluing the defenses for both these teams in terms of how they're going to impact this particular matchup. We talked about, Brook Lopez being a good rim protector. Well, Zion had 34, 8, and 6 the last time he played the Bucks with Brook playing a full slate of minutes. So it's not like he's going to shut him down. Sixers and Raptors, intriguing game for sure. Playoff rematch. Not going with any of the stars here, though. I mean, James Harden floundered against the Raptors defense, and I would be all over and under if OG Anunoby was playing, but we don't know about that. What I am doing is taking DeAnthony Melton over, and the 12.5 points is good. It's plus odds, but I mean, I think you take the whole package with him because he's playing 37 minutes per game right now. With Maxey and Milton now as well, only 19.5 PRA. In his last 5, he's averaging 17 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. That's obviously well over that. You just take his last 4 against Toronto, 2 of them with Memphis, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. So you're at 21 PRA, and that's in just 22 minutes per game. And now he's playing nearly the entire game. And like, unless this is a blowout, he's a really good rebounding guard. And Philly's a really bad rebounding team. And so the fact he's going to come in there crashing and do his part to get the peripheral stats. And Toronto, their defense has kind of fallen off a cliff without OG. That is a huge factor. In their last 7, they're allowing the 5th most points to shooting guards and the 5th most rebounds to point guards. Splice that however you want. I mean, Melton, is he the point guard or shooting guard when Harden's out there? It doesn't really matter. The point is he's the hustle guy, and Harden is the guy who's just going to run pick and rolls and take his step back threes and call it a day. And but Melton is the guy who's going to try to fill up the whole stat sheet for you, probably get you double-digit points and some good peripheral stats as well.
Yeah, I mean, the peripheral stats are almost as high as the points. So however you want to slice it, I mean, that's why the points you get the even odds there get, plus 100, really, really nice for him to get 13, the way that he's been putting up stats, especially in the last 5, and Harden being back almost seems to help him, probably getting a few more minutes, playing with the second unit and then still being on the floor during crunch time. That's exactly what you want from a guy that you're picking up. When you get this low stat line for a guy that is at least going to be on the floor for those 36 and a half-ish minutes a game, go ahead and feel good about the value that you get on his prop line there. So let's finish things off with Jarrett Allen. He is at home. He is taking on the Utah Jazz. This is not the first time, as we said, that we are using this logic to go ahead and pick a player prop. The Jazz do not rebound, and that's because their 2 big men are Lauri Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk, who are just as happy to play 30 feet from the basket as they are right next to it. So that's going to be a huge opportunity for any opposing centers right now against the Jazz, who are 30th in defensive rebounding percentage. They are 30th in points allowed in the paint, which is obviously where Jarrett Allen is scoring all of his points. And Utah on the road, just a really bad defensive rating, 117.6. So I mean, look, they're still scoring on the road. Are the Jazz? There's going to be plenty of point scores, be plenty of shots put up, and that's why we really like the rebounds for Jarrett Allen. 10.5 is plus money on FanDuel at plus 108 for him to get 11 boards. My favorite reasoning there is if you look at Jarrett Allen at home this season, 13 games played, 14 points and 11.5 boards at home that he's averaging in those 13 games, which is about 2 or 3 more boards than he averages on the road as well, where their defense is not quite as good, so more of those shots are probably going in on the road when you play against the Cavs. But when you're at home, this is the best defensive team in the league at home. Maybe not as good as Milwaukee at times, but I don't know. I would still probably put this defense up against anyone in the league, and the fact that there's going to be plenty of rebounds available, I think, for him tonight would be the reason I just go ahead and take the rebounds and get him to get 11 boards, get your plus money. Don't really need to worry about the points on this one as much.
Yeah, I mean, interesting you bring up Milwaukee because they just held Utah to 97 points and abysmal field goal percentage. And yeah, by the numbers, Cleveland is the best defense in the league at home. Anywhere you slice it, they have the best rating. So I expect Utah to, again, build a house of bricks here on the road. And Allen, a monster rebounder to get double-digit boards for sure. Maybe they play Walker Kessler more to match up with him. Be interested in that. But, I think he's still going to get his defensive rebounds, and Utah is not crashing the glass and taking those away from you.
Yeah, no, and for whatever reason, I'm not as familiar with the Jazz as maybe I could be to come up with this, but Walker Kessler's still not getting minutes for some reason. I mean, he's getting the 18 to 20, and a lot of people are calling for him to get 25 to 30. We'll see if that's the case tonight, where they definitely gonna need some more interior presence. But I'm still perfectly fine with Jarrett Allen getting his average total of rebounds at home, which is closer to 12 than it even is 11. But that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Go ahead and like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us each and every weekday this regular season, and until we see you next, happy betting.